Woohoo!
Hi everyone. Welcome to the National Geographic Kids Engineering Exploration Google Hangout. Thank you for joining us today, and a very special welcome to all the students joining us who submitted solutions to the Engineering Exploration Challenge. The Engineering Exploration Challenge was a program run by National Geographic this spring, where we invited students ages 6 to 18 around the world to submit solutions to us that they developed, built, and tested that were solutions to problems faced by National Geographic explorers in the field. We asked students to tackle these real-life challenges because they have the same capabilities, creativity, and innovation that real-life National Geographic explorers use to their abilities every day in the field. We want to thank Oracle for making this program possible. My name is Sam, and I'll be your host for the next hour as we discuss some very special solutions with some very special students, with some very special National Geographic engineers and explorers. So, I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our guests for joining us today, and by having our grown-up friends introduce themselves. So, Marty and Ross, can you say hi to all the viewers at home?
Hi, I'm Ross. And I'm Marty, and we are National Geographic Young Explorers. We're cartographers, which means we make maps, and we use aerial photography in our work.
Great. Shaw, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Shaw Selby, and I'm an emerging explorer with National Geographic. I'm an engineer and a conservation technologist, which basically means that I try and find ways that engineering and technology can help protect the environment. And so I focus on ocean conservation. I use things like the drones you see behind me, or make things like iPhone apps or sensors to try and do that. So.
Great. And now we're going to go to Washington, D.C., to our very top secret National Geographic Engineering Lab, where our favorite engineer, Alan, is waiting to say hello to us.
Hi, everyone. My name's Alan, and I'm a mechanical engineer with National Geographic's Remote Imaging Lab, and we make all kinds of camera equipment down here to help engineers and explorers and photographers. So if they want to get a certain kind of shot, we'll build them a camera to help them get that shot. And I actually have a bunch of the stuff that we've built right next to me.
Alan, is that a camera on a shark fin I see?
It is. It's actually called a critter cam, and the idea is you put a camera on a shark and you can see what it's like to be a shark because you're actually riding on the back of a shark.
What are some of the other toys on the table that you have there?
So this is called a camera trap, and the idea is it's a box with a camera inside and a bunch of sensors. So we'll put it out somewhere in a forest or something like that, and when an animal walks by, it'll trigger the camera to take a picture of the animal. So this is nice because we don't have to have a photographer out in the field. We can just leave this out there. I also have what's called a sun sphere behind me, which is a giant underwater light that has like 140,000 lumens. It's really bright, so it can actually go all the way to the bottom of the ocean too.
Great. So, we, again, welcome to the National Geographic Kids Engineering Exploration Google Hangout. My name's Sam, and I'm coming to you from Knoxville, Tennessee today. We're broadcasting from a very special event called Global Finals with Destination Imagination. So, for the past year, a bunch of students have been working on creative engineering competition solutions, and their goal is to compete in creative engineering. So there's no better place for us to be celebrating the end of our challenge here today with all the creative and innovative solutions that we received. We got a ton of great solutions from DIers, and we also got a ton of great solutions from kids all over the world. Over 1,000 people, students, have participated in the Engineering Exploration Challenge, and all these kids were from over 7 different countries. So again, we want to thank you guys who submitted solutions for tuning in, and we want to welcome you to the Hangout. So, we had a few guiding questions for you guys to think about at home while you're viewing. The first, they're all posted on the discussion board below. So as you're watching, feel free to have conversations with each other, post your reaction to those discussions. You can also submit questions to any of the speakers on screen that you see, and you can do that by using the Q&A feature on the Google Plus page or through Twitter, where you can submit questions to @NatGeoEducation using the hashtag NGX. So, without further ado, we were so impressed by all the solutions that we received for our challenge, and we are very excited to be sharing some of those solutions with you all today. So our first solution that we're going to be sharing is a solution that a young gentleman named Andrew built. So, hi Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Can you please introduce yourselves to everyone who's watching?
So, yeah, I'm Andrew Pelham from Nashville, Tennessee, and I created the roll and return animal-proof camera.
So what was the challenge specifically that you were trying to solve?
Well, I chose to enter challenge number 1, the animal-proof camera. And I don't have any sharks or tigers at my house, but I do have 3 little siblings who are always breaking everything, including my mom's camera.
So you wanted to create a little sibling-proof camera instead of an animal-proof camera?
Of sorts, yes.
How did that go? So tell us about the camera that you built.
Well, when I created the roll and turn animal camera, at first I wanted to create a gyroscope in a sphere, but I had to find something I could do with what I had at home. So it kind of works in 2 ways. So the first way, it has a clear protective shell, and here it is right here. And the camera is suspended from rubber bands to prevent shocks, so if you roll it, it would bounce along. And it rolls, like as it rolls, the camera is weighted. When the rubber bands are turning, they don't actually turn, they twist. So soon the potential energy grows too great for the actual camera as a whole. So it mysteriously just starts rolling back. So I had the idea that maybe we could get the picture before the animal has time to, toy with it.
So if I understand correctly, you were looking for an everyday material that you had at your house. You took a soda bottle, put a camera inside of it, and suspend it with rubber bands, and you can push the camera out towards an animal, and then it will eventually roll back to you. Is that correct? Great. Alan, what do you think about this camera? It sounds very similar to what you do in your work.
I think this whole camera thing is really great. I really like the idea that you use stuff that you had available to you, Andrew. I think that was a really cool way to approach the solution. Can I ask you about testing it though? Like, what was the hardest thing that you faced when you first built the camera?
So when I first built my prototype, I had trouble with the rubber bands not being tight enough because they were too big. So I had to get some smaller ones so the camera wouldn't keep bumping onto the side of the soda bottle.
Cool. Did you how many prototypes did you build of your device?
About 2. So not many, but
Yeah, no, but it looks like it looks like it was working when you're holding it up there.
Andrew, what was wrong? What did you have to change about the first prototype to get to the second prototype? Was it just the rubber bands, or were there other things?
I also had to change the weight because the camera wasn't heavy enough to create enough potential energy. So I attached a small weight under the camera.
Interesting.
What do you want to? If you were going to make another one, what would you do, Andrew, to improve it?
Well, I think a bigger bottle would help because then I'd have more room to improve, and I'd also the camera would you could get a bigger camera inside of there, like one of the ones that maybe National Geographic use.
Yeah, our cameras are. We use some pretty big cameras. We use some pretty small cameras too. Small ones work well. But
Alan, have you ever built a camera that rolls, like the camera that Andrew built?
I haven't personally built a camera that rolls, but there was one that was built for a Tiger project with a photographer, Steve Winter, and it was like a little car that would actually drive around. But the only thing is, with having a car, you have batteries, and you have to charge them. What's really cool about your solution, Andrew, is it doesn't require batteries. It just works on the energy stored within the rubber band, which I think is actually really, really great.
Alan, how does that work with the energy in the rubber bands?
So, like Andrew was explaining, when the rubber band twists, the rubber band expanding is actually holding, I guess you could say, energy within the rubber band. So as it's twisting, it's storing up energy, and then because it's stretched, it wants to untwist, and it's basically the untwisting motion is going to cause the camera to roll back, and so you're kind of using the rubber band kind of like a little tiny battery, storing a bunch of energy and then releasing it at a certain point.
Cool.
Sense.
Andrew, did you take any pictures using the camera of your little siblings? Did you test it on them?
Well, I did get to take a short video, but I wasn't able to get it on here yet, so.
Cool. That's great that it was successful. Now, Andrew, did you have a question for Alan?
Yes, I did. So, I was wondering, how does National Geographic keep cameras stable when they're moving, and did they ever think of using a gyroscope?
Yes. Actually, we have, that's actually a big problem that we have. We have some aerial cameras, and when you're flying through the air, if you have a remote control helicopter that's tipping and vibrating and everything like that, it's all that's going to translate to the camera, so then the camera will shake and stuff like that. So it's very important that we keep our cameras steady. So that's actually a very important thing that we deal with a lot. And we use electronic gyroscopes to sense the motion of how the camera's turning, and we use motors to compensate for that motion.
Cool. So one of the great things about this challenge is that we receive so many creative solutions to the same problem. So I want to take a minute and show some of those other solutions off, because there's no right or wrong way to solve these issues. I think that's clear just from all those examples you gave, Alan, about how this works. So one of the solutions that we wanted to show comes from a group of students in South Korea, Team Bolt. These are one of the 7 countries that submitted to the solution, and they designed a camera that looks like a turtle. They did a really good job following the engineering process and documented it the whole way through, which is really great, because what that does is it allows people to replicate what they did and also to learn from and build upon it. One of the other solutions we wanted to show was a video from a group of students that built a camera called the Camel Cam. I bet you guys can guess what that camera studied. And I'm just going to cue up a video really quickly and play this for everyone.
Science behind the Camel Cam. Hey National Geographic, I'm Ethan. I'm Isha. I'm Eric. And I'm Shannon. Have you ever been to the hot, arid desert? You may have seen cacti, coyotes, and snakes. But we are focusing on another desert animal, the camel. Have you ever seen pictures of what camels do? What they eat? What they do at night? Probably not. Camels can run at a top speed of 40 miles per hour, weigh about 1,000 pounds, spit when they're irritated. These qualities make them very hard to catch on camera, but that doesn't matter with the Camel Cam! Here it is. This is our prototype of the Camel Cam. As you can see, it's very fast and can navigate through the camel, even when it's irritated. We added a light to get the camera's attention, so we can take a good headshot. The science and engineering part to our project, the most important. Our process, 6 steps to success. First, we found out our problem. We researched, but you'll learn more about that later in the video. Based on our problem, we proposed a solution of a remote-controlled robot, also known as the Camel Cam. We made a design to plan what our prototype would look like. Next, we built our prototype based on what our real robot might look like and what it will do. Last, we tested our prototype. Okay, that concludes our video for now. And we're still learning about camels. Thanks for watching!
Okay, so that was the Camel Cam submitted from another group of students. Now what I want to do is I want to go to Sarah at Ross School. Sarah, can you introduce yourself to everyone at home?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sarah. I go to the Ross School in East Hampton on Long Island, New York. I'm part of the Innovation Lab, which is a program for science, design, and technology that allows students to independently explore certain aspects that they enjoy.
Great. And what challenge did you work on, Sarah?
I chose challenge number 2, which was getting a camera up 10 feet into a tree.
Great. And why did you want to work on that one?
It seemed like the most interesting project to me. I'm not very like a technology person. I like to build things, so for me that was the one that sounded most enjoyable.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your solution.
Well, I have my solution right here. It's basically this box, which you can see has 4 bungee cords so that the camera doesn't fall out, and it has like a little bounce to it so it doesn't hurt the camera like pushing back in. It has 10 feet of rope on both sides, and they are attached through this, which was drilled and tied onto the box. And then on the end of the rope, I have a belay device, which is usually used for rock climbing, but I just tied it with rope. And then at the end, I have a carabiner, which you can use to clip down the rope. So basically, the idea works. You have your branch, and you take this, and you just throw it over. And then you can catch this on the other side and sort of maneuver the rope to get the box at the right position that you want it up in your branch.
Great. So Marty and Ross, you guys do a lot of aerial work, in particular to collect data to make your maps. How is getting your aerial photography similar to the solution that Sarah developed?
Yeah, so Sarah, great job. Really cool solution. So, and it's great because it's really different from what we do. We started out using balloons, helium balloons that would lift a camera, and you know that had a lot of downsides to it. So then we actually started using a kite, and that also had some downsides to it. And now we use a remote-controlled quadcopter, so like a drone. But what I really like about your solution is, one, it doesn't require any power, and two, you can leave it there. You can leave it up there in the tree for a long time, which would be really cool if you were doing some kind of like time-lapse photography. That'd be really neat. So, but tell us a little bit more. Was this the first solution? Was this your first prototype, or did you have other ideas that led to this?
This is my only prototype. I like to think and write it down, so I had a bunch of like ideas and pictures drawn out, but this was like my last idea and what I decided to make a prototype.
Cool, nice. And have you tested it out in the field?
Yeah.
Have you gotten some good pictures?
Well, I didn't put a camera in it because I should not be trusted with a camera 10 feet away. But I just took a box, which is like roughly the size of like a camera, and so then I can just put it into the box and use that.
Cool. So we were thinking about your solution and wondering, have you thought about ways, you know, say you had a tree branch that you wanted to loop the rope around, but it was really, really high, like too far for just to be able to throw it. Have you thought about ways that you could get it up there?
I haven't tried to do anything higher than like a reachable tree branch with a rope, but I think you could probably like just attach the carabiner to something that could then project it up higher.
Yeah, exactly. So like you just mentioned, like projecting it up higher. So like maybe with like a slingshot or a bow and arrow even. That would be a cool thing to try.
What was one of the hardest things about this challenge for you?
I think making the box stable up in a branch, because with a branch you only have like the trunk of the tree and then the branch, so depending on the angle of the branch, it might be hard to get the box into like a good position for whatever shot you're trying to get.
Yeah.
And also, if you put a timer on the camera, like if you just want to take one photo instead of like a long series of photos, um, you have to be really fast with it, because unless if you have like a lot of time and the timer is long, then you might take more time getting the box up than the amount of time before the camera shot is taken.
Right. What you mentioned about stabilizing the camera, that's, I think, our biggest challenge too, is, we've got factors like wind and all these other things that are affecting, where the camera is pointing and whether it's moving. So yeah, that's a big challenge.
How did you come up with the idea for the bungee cords?
Well, I had a couple ideas at first of what I wanted to do. I was thinking maybe to leave the box on, like the lid on, and then just cut a hole depending on the size of the camera. But I think that bungee cords work best because like you can easily just slide them down depending on the camera, and that way you don't need a different box lid for every camera. And they also like they're stretchable, so a camera can like bounce and move around from it.
Yeah, I love how adaptable it is.
Cool.
Sarah, so I think you had said that you actually took this outside and tested it on a tree. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a lot of forest out here, so I had no problem with testing it out.
That's great. We love it when people actually test stuff because that's how you learn. Do you have any questions for Ross and Marty?
I do actually, and you sort of touched on it before. My concern with putting an actual camera in here is the safety of the camera. Like in here, obviously, if the camera hits to the side, there's just plastic and bungee cord to protect it. And at one point, I was considering maybe putting foam in it, but what I wanted to know is what do you guys put? Obviously, you might not have a box, but what do you put around the camera to protect it if it were to like fall or get hit by something?
Yeah, and we definitely have had them fall.
That's a great question.
So when we started out, the first time we did this, we were using these helium balloons, and we actually took an empty cream cheese container and cut a hole in the bottom. And we were using a GoPro camera, and so we just had the camera so that it was fit perfectly in this cream cheese container facing down.
And then we put a piece of styrofoam behind it so it was really tight still, so it couldn't move around a lot. And it was protected if it ever hit the ground.
Right. And so what we do is instead of protecting the camera like by putting other material around it, we actually we use a case, a hard plastic case that goes over the camera, so that if it falls on the rocks, for example, which we've had that happen, the case is protecting it.
Oh, okay.
But Sarah, one thing I wanted to just add is with your solution, because it's in a tree, one really cool thing would be to get it, to be able to capture some animal life. Animals that are living in these trees. There's another explorer friend of ours does that exact thing. He sets up cameras in trees to study the life of the canopy.
Sarah, do you have any idea how you might keep a camera more permanently up in a tree?
Well, for my solution, I just, if you wanted to keep the box up in the tree for a long time, I was just thinking you can find like another branch or something to clip the carabiner to, so then it would just stay put until you want to unclip it and take it down.
Yeah, that was really great, guys. Sarah, one of the things that we were most impressed with by your solution is how you wanted to use materials that were easily accessed and could be replicated. Because something that's so cool about your solution was that it allowed anyone to build it, which we really, really liked. One of the other solutions that we really liked was a solution sent in from a group of people called the Rotten Tomatoes, and they were from out in California. And so I'm just going to do a quick screen share to show you guys the video to see what the Rotten Tomatoes did to solve this challenge.
This is a project from the Rotten Tomatoes. Very rotten. That box has a hole in it, so the string can go long. And it carries your camera. Cool, right? The green foam at the bottom is foams for a safe landing. It makes sure if the balloons pop that they'll have a safe landing. We used 27 balloons. 3 of them popped.
So we had a lot of solutions tied to balloons, and we loved seeing them, especially when the balloons were actually inflated. But now I want to go over to Lake and Park School in Washington. Hey guys, how are you today?
Good.
Good. So can you introduce yourselves to everyone watching at home?
My name is Tate.
Hi, my name is Anna.
My name is Anderson.
Hi, my name is Jonah.
Hey guys, so tell me a little bit about the challenge that you decided to work on and the solution that you built.
We solved challenge number 3, and our solution was we created some potato belt using potatoes, and it could electronic circuit using potatoes. So we wanted something that was challenging and fun, and involved electronics. So we came up with potatoes. We created an electronic circuit using potatoes.
Our first thing that we tried was sticking a penny and a nail in each potato and connecting alligator clips to the penny and nail and then to a light bulb, but it didn't work. So with the help of our friend Anderson, who came into our group and applied some supplies that we needed to fix it, we could make it work.
We stuck a copper and zinc strip in each potato to power a clock. Connected to a clock.
Cool.
We connected the...
We had to make our invention wearable. We thought about a vest, but decided to try a belt because we liked that idea better. To make a belt, use some recycled plastic, 2 plastic tennis ball cans, and gloss and duct tape. The plastic wrapped around the waist, the tennis ball cans were used in the front of the belt to hold the potatoes, and the duct tape held it all together. It worked pretty well, but we found that the belt was not very comfortable to wear, and it was hard to walk with the belt on. We had some ideas how to improve it. We might use some padding on the waistband and cut off some of the extra materials that are getting in the way.
That is an awesome solution. So I love that you used potatoes, and I am so curious, Shaw, what you think about this belt, because this is such a traditional engineering exercise for students, and the creativity of putting it on a belt to make it wearable. Is this something that you could use in the field? Is this something that you would be interested in building yourself and creating a generation of potato belts?
Yeah, no, I think the solution is a great idea. Batteries are very important in all the work that I do. They basically are the limiting factor in anything that you use in the field. You have to worry about when the battery will run out. So anytime you come up with a better idea on how to make a battery, that's only going to help for the future.
So how exactly, Shaw, does this battery work? I mean, the students tried to put a nail and a penny in, but that obviously wasn't strong enough because now they have zinc and copper into the potato. So how does that work?
So it's basically an electrochemical cell. So what you're doing is you're converting the chemical energy to electrical energy. So the potato itself has it's an electrolyte. It has an electrolyte solution, and that lets the electrons pass from the zinc to the copper. And when you connect that with a wire, you can complete the circuit. And when they put the clock connected to that wire, then that ends up giving some power. The current gives power to the clock.
Cool. Shaw, what kind of questions do you have for the students about their belt?
Yeah, I'd love to hear how you guys how'd you come up with the idea? How'd you decide to create this belt?
Well, we were thinking about doing. We were thinking about. We didn't really have an idea, but then I just. Yeah, I just randomly thought about potatoes, and then I realized. I think I seen it. I don't remember where, but you stick zinc and copper. Maybe maybe work on a lemon, and then 2 zinc and copper sticks in each potatoes, and then we wired it to the clock face. And
I'm curious, did you guys try any other vegetables, or did you always know you wanted to do potatoes?
Well, we thought that potatoes would be fun, but we knew that some other stuff could probably, like lemons, work. But also adding on to what Tate said, to come up with the idea, we first thought about charging an iPhone with the potato, and we tried that, and it didn't really work that well.
broke your charger.
Yeah, and we broke the charger, so we decided to maybe try this electric circuit. And
So what other kind of testing did you guys do before you came up with the final solution?
We tested with, well, first we did the penny and the nail, and we got one of Anderson's testing meter things, and we connected that. And we got like a half a watt of power, 1 watt of power or something. And it wasn't enough to power a light bulb, and then we switched to the copper stick and the zinc stick, and it was enough to power a clock.
And also, Anderson, the reason he came into our group is because he knows a lot about technology and chemicals and science and stuff like this. And so we asked him for help, and then he helped us figure out how to wire it and make it connectable.
So did the battery stop working after a while? Did you have to replace the potatoes or anything like that?
The battery starts working when the potatoes are, well, when the potatoes get moldy and it maybe work for like a week. Roughly about a week.
It worked until the potato got moldy.
Yeah.
So if you were like long-lasting potatoes, you could get like a month out of them. But we had an idea. We had an idea if you ran out when you're like doing something in the field, that we have these like tennis jars, and you could store extra potatoes in them, so that when you run out, you can just rewire it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Though one biggest mistake you do when you go out into the field is not bring enough batteries. So you guys are basically just solving that by adding those to it. That's great. I also like that you guys kept on trying when things didn't work. That's the best way to learn anything in engineering is from the first time when you try something. If that doesn't work, you keep on trying and trying again, and that makes your solution even better.
We have a question actually from one of our viewers. Did you guys try and eat the potatoes after you built the potato belt?
No. Well, it got moldy. The potatoes got moldy.
So they were too moldy to eat. Now you guys have tennis containers, right? So how exactly did you put the potatoes on the belt?
We put the potatoes in the containers and kind of made sure the potatoes wouldn't slip down, so it would just on wire, and so we taped part of the potato, and then it worked.
And also, when we had some smaller potatoes, we put paper in the jars so that they would stay up. But if you were really out there, you would have potatoes in them so that they could stay in.
So do you guys have any idea how you could power something bigger than a clock?
Yeah.
You might be able to use. So it might. Maybe if you put it through a like had it generate up a bunch of power, like have it in a rechargeable battery, and then have it, or maybe a capacitor. Capacitor might work. And then go to a after it's generated enough energy, go to a transformer and transform it into a higher voltage.
And you
I know that.
use more potatoes and then have more wires and stuff connecting, and then the final wires would connect.
And also, you only have one potato cut in half for each time. So if we use 2 potatoes, it might generate more.
And I don't know, but I just heard this, that maybe if you soak it in something that has more electrolytes or electrons, like Gatorade or something, and you like soak it in that it will power more because it has more.
Yeah, that's very true. You could soak it in Gatorade, and you could add more potatoes. I think the Guinness record for potato clock had over 1,000 potatoes in it, so you could definitely do that.
What do you guys think of that? 1,000 potatoes. That's wild. Lake and Park, do you guys have any questions for Shaw?
Tell us a story about how you got into inventing, and how old were you?
So I got into engineering because when I was a kid, I used to go around the house and take apart all my dad's electronics without him knowing, and so I ended up breaking a lot of his pretty expensive stuff. And the way that he kind of stopped me from doing that was he would start to teach me how they all worked, and that's when I got really interested in engineering.
Great. Lake and Park, have you guys ever broken anything?
Yeah. We actually, when we were studying invention, we had people brought in old radios and computers and phones and different electronic or clocks and stuff like that, and we got to take them apart with screwdrivers and stuff to see how they worked.
Shaw, that must be a paradise for you.
Yeah, that's a ton of fun. I wish I was there.
So the potato belt was just one solution that we received for challenge number 3. And right now we want to show off a different kind of solution to this challenge. Again, there's no one way to solve these problems, which is something that was so great about all the solutions that were submitted to us. So now we're going to go to Joseph. Hey, Joseph, how are you today?
Hi, how are you? Hi, my name's Joseph. I'm from New York City. I'm in 7th grade at the Ramaz Middle School, and I use piezo discs to charge a battery.
So you obviously took on challenge number 3, which was to generate 1 watt of electricity in the field while and create a wearable solution. So why did you want to work on this solution and this challenge?
Well, I during my free time, I really like to work with electronics, and as they were saying before, I like to take things apart. So I was just, I had this idea in the back of my head, and I thought, why not try it? So I got the resources, and I put it together, and I was really surprised because it worked, and it was just really cool.
Great. So tell me a little bit about what you actually built. So what does your solution look like, and how does it work?
So my solution is a piezo disc, which is a disc with some copper around it, and inside it there's some quartz crystal with some electrons on it, and the electrons, when compressed or stepped on, will produce electricity. So I just used the electricity and ran it through a wire to a diode, which makes sure that the electricity only goes into the battery and doesn't keep the battery from stopping to charge. And then I just hooked it up to 2 batteries, and I was able to charge the 2 batteries over the course of a day.
Well, that's pretty amazing. You make it sound very simple, but I know you went through a lot of testing and development to get your solution to where it is today. And where it is today is with Alan in the National Geographic Lab. So, Alan, what do you think about Joseph's solution, especially because you have it there with you? So what do you think about it?
So I think it's really great. Joseph, I actually have your solution here. One of the cool things about it is it's very small, and I actually did put it in my shoe earlier, and I was walking around a little bit trying it out. That's, like I was saying, the small size I think is really nice, because when you're out in the field, you don't want to carry around a lot of extra stuff with you to charge your batteries, because you probably have enough gear already. So having something small that's just using the energy of your body to generate electricity is a really great way to do that. So Joseph, actually I have this hooked up. Maybe my friend Dan can help me here. I have this hooked up to an oscilloscope, and I'm actually going to show you generating the energy here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bend the disc, and we can see on the, wait, let me connect it right here. We can see on the screen, if you can see there, there's actually, those spikes are actually the electricity being generated right there. And you're talking about the diode, and so I added a diode here on the end, and now when I do it, when I flex the disc here, you can see that there's a spike on the top but no spike on the bottom. And what that is showing is, oh wait, yeah, is it on the top? Well, with the diode connected, the electricity doesn't go back into the battery. You can lower it down. So it's really great to see that it's actually generating the electricity there. So we can see there's those little spikes, and that's like, so say you have a gallon jug. You're just putting like little droplets of water into that gallon jug to fill it up, and that would be you filling the battery. So it's really great to be able to actually test out your solution and see it actually generating the energy there.
So, Joseph, tell us a little bit about how you developed your solution. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got to this point.
So I just started out I wanted to go big in the beginning, which was my first mistake, because I ended up using a bunch of these piezo discs at once, and I found out that even with the diodes added, what was happening was all the electricity was going back into the piezo disc. So if one disc was trying to charge the battery, then that electricity would end up just going into another disc instead of both discs trying to charge the battery at the same time. And then from there, I just said, well, I should use one disc, and I just used one disc with the diode and the battery, and it seemed to work perfectly fine. So that it was really my biggest mistake was trying to go too big at first, when I knew I should have just started small and got bigger gradually.
So how did you go about testing all these different variations of the solution?
So the main way I was testing these was putting them in the sole of my shoe, as Alan did before, and having the batteries hooked up. And I would walk for a day with having these piezo discs in my shoe, which aren't that uncomfortable because of their size. And after the day, I would go home, and I had a multimeter, which measures voltage. And I was just using that to check the voltage of the batteries after every day. So, every day I checked. Maybe the batteries were at 2 volts or 1 volt, just to see, maybe they're 50% charged, maybe they weren't charged at all. And that really helped me find out what worked and what didn't.
It sounds like a very intensive process. How long did it take you to go through all these iterations?
I ended up doing all the different testing over the course of a month, because I wanted to wear at least each version of it for about a week, unless I straight up knew it didn't work from the beginning, which I did have a few scenarios, but I ended up wearing most of them for a week just to make sure it did work every day and it wasn't just a one-time thing where I got lucky.
Cool. Alan, what do you think about all this? Like the timeline it takes to develop the solution, the multiple phases of testing, how does that relate to what you do for your job every day?
So that's exactly what we have to go through when I'm designing anything that's actually going to be used in the field. It always takes lots of iterations to go through, and I think just that's really great how much testing and how many iterations that you went through, because not only do you arrive at a really good solution, but you're learning a lot of things along the way. One of the things I wanted to ask you actually is how about generating more power? How do you think you could go about doing that?
I was thinking if I was to improve the way that I laid out the disks and added diodes in specific places and tried to work a little more with how the current flows, I would be able to use multiple disks. And if I was to use multiple disks and a higher rated battery that could accept more voltage, I would be able to charge more batteries faster and more batteries also.
So I had another question. If you were going to say send this out with somebody out in the field, what are some additional steps do you think that you would need to take to make this so that you could like really use it for somebody to really use it out in the field?
A few things I would want to do is maybe instead of just sending them the actual disc, I would want to design it so it was actually inside of a shoe, because it can be a little pesky if you're walking around for hours and hours and then all of a sudden you feel this little thing in your foot and it's coming out. So I wouldn't want that to happen. Also, I would want it to be I would want to be able to take it apart much easier than having to take everything apart and put it back together again. I would want to make everything attachable, so that way if one of the piezo discs was to die for whatever reason, you could just put a new one in really easily without having to fuss so much.
Yeah, I think those are all really great ideas in order to get it out there. What made you think of using the piezo discs to generate power?
I was just looking at a lot of articles online, and I so happened to stumble across piezo discs because I was really, I don't even know how I got there, but I was looking about an article on how electric start grills can start without being plugged in. So they're actually just using a spring-loaded hammer and some piezo discs, and using those, it was able to, and it really just sparked my imagination, and from there I just went and outlined until I got to where I am now.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Sometimes when you're out there and you're just researching, trying to think about things, you'll stumble upon something, and that'll really spark an idea. And I think that's a lot of times how big ideas get started. It's just like one little instant, and then all of a sudden, wow, wait, I could really do that. So I think that was a great way to find a solution.
Now, Joseph, do you have any specific questions for Alan about what he does?
Yes, I do. I just had one big question. I was wondering, what's the most extreme camera you've ever had to build?
Most extreme camera. I would say right now, actually, we have a camera that can go all the way to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. And that's the bottom, the lowest part of the ocean. And the hard thing about that is there's tremendous pressure at that depth, and so everything just wants to get crushed. So we had to have a really strong housing to hold the camera, and also if it's going all the way to the bottom and it's got to come all the way up, we have to have a way to retrieve it. There's so many different aspects that you have to think about when you're sending a camera all the way to the bottom of the ocean. So that's probably the most extreme place I've ever sent a camera before, and that's probably our most extreme camera that we have in the shop.
Really interesting.
Cool. So I definitely want to give all of our viewers at home a chance to ask some of the questions. I want to thank everyone so far for their comments. I want to remind you that you can post your questions using the Q&A feature on our Google Plus page or on Twitter by using the hashtag NGX. And to give you guys a little bit of time to get all those good questions out there, it's come to my attention that people couldn't see the camel cam video. So I'm going to play the camel cam video. Then we're going to go to Lake and Park to kick off our questions.
The science behind the camel cam. Hey National Geographic, I'm Ethan. I'm Isha. I'm Eric. And I'm Shannon. Have you ever been to the hot, arid desert? You may have seen cacti, coyotes, and snakes. But we are focusing on another desert animal, the camel. Have you ever seen pictures of what camels do? What they eat? What they do at night? Probably not. Camels can run at a top speed of 40 miles per hour, weigh about 1,000 pounds, spit when they're irritated. These qualities make them very hard to catch on camera, but that doesn't matter with the Camel Cam! Here it is! This is our prototype of the Camel Cam. As you can see, it's very fast and can navigate through the camel, even when it's irritated.
So, I just wanted to do a quick thank you to the Camel Cam kids. We've gotten a lot of your questions, so I wanted to make sure that everyone got to see their great solution too. So Lake and Park, I hear that you guys have a question that you're going to kick off our Q&A with.
Hi.
Hi, so what's your question?
My question is what can kids do to support your job of helping the environment?
So the question is, what do you do for your job to help the environment?
No.
Okay, one more time, and please speak up.
What can kids do to support your job of helping the environment?
Great question. So I think the question is for all of our explorers, and the question is, what can kids do to help support your jobs of protecting the environment? So, Shaw, I think that there's probably some connections with your work there.
Yeah, of course. I think that the first thing that kids should do to try and help with at least what I do in protecting our oceans is to learn as much as they can about it. There's a lot of stuff through National Geographic they can see, and the more you learn about it, the easier it is to kind of protect it. I think also, too, there's a very big problem with overfishing nowadays, and so being careful about the type of stuff you eat and what you throw away and what the impact that has on the ocean. I think that's a very easy way that kids can help protect and support our environment.
Great. Marty and Ross, what about you guys? How can kids help support you in the mapping work that you guys do?
Well, for us, one thing that you guys can all do really well is get yourselves, your friends, and your families, especially your parents, out enjoying your local communities and the nature and wild places that you have nearby, and start thinking about ways that you can take care of those places, whether it's just picking up trash or volunteering for the people that maintain them.
Yeah, and I just add that exploration starts in your backyard.
So you don't have to go somewhere exotic to be an explorer?
Exactly.
Great. So I want to go to some questions from our viewers. Our first question is for Alan, and this question comes from Harriet on Twitter. What is the most difficult engineering problem that you've solved?
I think one of the hardest problems that we've had to solve is one that we've actually solved recently. That camera that I was talking to you about that goes all the way to the bottom of the ocean, we wanted it to hang out just a mile below the surface of the ocean. And that's actually really hard because we've got to make the camera sink down and then stop and hold and float there in the ocean. So we've actually made a device that allows the camera to sink and then hold all the way down to 1,500 meters below the surface. That was a pretty tough challenge because there was a lot of stuff involved with that, connecting it to the camera, also figuring out how to make it so that it would sink and then hold at that specific depth, especially just because the ocean pressure is just so intense at that depth. So that was one of the biggest challenges associated with that device.
Sure, you're considering a lot of really extreme environmental conditions when you're engineering at that depth.
Exactly.
So our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so this question is for you from Jeff on Google+. What animal would you most like to photograph in the wild, and why?
Well, there are lots of different animals that would be pretty fun to photograph, but if I were to choose one, I'd choose maybe a manta ray, because they look so cool when they're swimming, and their mouth looks pretty fun to look at. It's kind of weird, but yeah.
That's great. So you would want to photograph manta rays? Very cool. I think you'll need to work on some of those environmental factors that Alan was talking about. All right. Our next question is for Joseph, and this question is from Corey on Google+. What advice would you give other kids who want to solve engineering challenges?
I think the best thing that kids can do to help solve challenges that they face is to just tackle them head on. And I mean, like, there are a lot of things where people go and they say, well, I can really fix that, but you know, they don't think they have the time, or they don't think that they can they don't think that they have the power to do that. But I think I would just say, you know, you do have the power, and if you want to, you can go out there and do it, and nothing should stop you from that.
That was a very good answer, Joseph. Okay, so now we have a question for our Lake and Park kids. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right, so this question comes from Elaine on Google+. Are any of you thinking about careers in engineering or science?
I'm thinking about maybe when I grow up having a career in engineering.
So, Anderson, you're interested in a career in science? What about the rest of you? A show of hands. How many of you guys want to do science? Anna, why would you want to do science? Tate, Jonah, Anderson, why are you guys so interested in science?
Well, I haven't done much science. I've done, and it's just really cool to learn how things can work, and how that they can just be put together, and that there's always more to learn.
So you like figuring out how things work? Right.
I would want to be an engineer. I like building. I like designing and building. I always have fun with that. I think I want to be an engineer.
So, Jonah, you like designing and building. What about you, Tate?
I like, designing and building.
That's great. Well, I think that you guys all have some very bright futures ahead of you. We have time for one more question, and I think we can probably all guess that it's for Sarah. So, Sarah, we have a question for you from Dane on Google+. What was the most frustrating part of your experience creating your solution?
I think stabilizing the camera, especially if it's higher than like 10 feet, it can be hard to get the camera in a good position, and sometimes when I was trying to experiment with it, the camera would be fine for a second, and then the next second it would tilt, and so you can't really climb up a 10-foot tree and adjust it, so that was definitely something that took a lot of patience.
Great. So before we leave, I want to see if any of our featured students or featured explorers and engineers have questions for each other. Andrew, what's your question?
Well, I had two questions. So one for Lake and Park, for all the students there. So going back to what one of you said about the whole Gatorade and the electrolytes, that is one thing you need to try out. And because I know that Gatorade has a lot of electrolytes, and people who are going into the desert to take pictures probably have Gatorade on them themselves. They probably would have a bottle of Gatorade, so maybe they could try using that or something.
Yeah, so I think they were open to using Gatorade. How many of our explorers drink Gatorade while they're in the field? Does it keep you guys charged?
Yeah.
All right. What was your second question, Andrew?
Well, the second question was for Marty and Ross. So I was reading one of my Boy Scout magazines a few days ago, and it had an article about this GoPro rocket camera. It was a rocket ship thing, like kind of a model version of one, and it had like a GoPro attached to it. You could get it for like $20, and then you could launch it from the air. You get really cool footage. I didn't know if you've heard of that or not, but.
So Marty and Ross.
I've seen that before, but it sounds really cool. I think that's a really interesting idea. One question I'd have is how would you retrieve the camera afterwards and protect it against impact? But I think that's you'd get some really interesting footage for sure.
Maybe that will be one of our next challenges. Well, maybe that will be the next challenge, is how do you launch a camera and then get it back? So we are just out of time. I want to thank everyone who tuned in today to watch. I want to thank all of our students. Let's give them a big round of applause. You guys did a great job. I want to thank all of our explorers. I want to thank DI for hosting us today. I want to thank Oracle for sponsoring the program. I want to remind everyone that you can do these challenges yourselves that the students worked on. They're available for free online at natgeoed.org/ngx. There will also be a video recording of this hangout put up there shortly. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. I think Joseph almost said it best when he was saying that kids have the power to do real engineering. We at National Geographic want to encourage all of you to get outside, explore wherever you are, and to engineer your own explorations. So, happy engineering. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.